Can you hear me now? Yeah, brilliant. So, my name is Tomasz Przedmojski. I'm from Infopark. We are a company in Germany, in Berlin actually. We are starting offices. We are building offices in Wrocław. And we came here to give a talk, to sponsor this event. And my talk will be a little bit light-hearted, a little bit something to, relax. It's 6 easy steps to ruin your JavaScript project or product. And let's go. So first, who am I? Why should you listen to me? Why should you listen to this talk? Well, I'm a Ruby and JavaScript developer at Infopark, as I said before. And I've been doing some form of web development on and off for the past 12 years. I started with PHP, oh God, and now I'm here. But those are not the reasons that qualify me. For the most of those 12 years, I had absolutely no clue what I was doing. So, if you want to listen to someone who most of the time didn't have a clue, enjoy. First, let's start with something really solid. Let's start with logic. Premise A. All programming projects succeed. Fact. Premise B. All JavaScript projects are programming projects. Conclusion 1. All JavaScript projects succeed. And if you don't believe me, it's actually true. So, what can we do about it? What I won't be talking about is your code style, how you should do your things. I won't talk about tests, because we know that everyone has 100% code coverage. And I won't talk about good practices, because we know that everyone follows all the good practices. This talk focuses on you on your task to ruin your project. And you have to be sneaky. You have to be mindful, because you are surrounded by the very best people, the very brightest, smartest people around you, namely your teammates. And they will try to hinder you. So, let's start with a quote. Speed is the most important feature, by my boss, and also by Fred Wilson. So, why? You get the point. So first, make it slow. And we'll have a look at a couple of things that you can do to make it slow. First, don't listen to the guy before me. Don't do it. But general rule of thumb, each and every of your backend responses should never be faster than 500 milliseconds. Try to keep that in mind. If you can, use as many queries as possible to fetch your data. Possibly, if you're fetching related data, use one query for each item. If you can, block whenever you access resources. If you can't, remember, never do anything in parallel. Promise all is for suckers. So, how about front-end? Front-end is a little bit trickier, because you have a pretty great opponent, namely the browser. And the easiest tool in the box is probably use something like function or evil. But it probably won't fly with your teammates. But there are DOM events. They come to the rescue. Use scroll, use resize. And never forget, you always have to needlessly run in the background. It has the added benefit of draining the battery on the mobile devices. And the best example is, so if you cannot figure anything out, you can't really think of anything to use those principles, just put a snow. So, I also heard that you do some React programming, and actually making React slow is a bit tricky, because it aims to be fast by default. During my time with React, I learned a couple of tricks to make it slower, and I want to share with them. First, remember, you have to force React to update and re-render. Yeah? You have to force it. And you have to be clever, because remember, your teammates are watching. Code review is a really tough process. So, about pure components, you can implement them like this. It will work beautifully, beautifully slow. If you have just a function which returns a component, remember to always use defaults, and always use them like this. And last but not least, never do what the React guide tells you. So if you are displaying a list, always use array indices as your keys. It's great. So, time for a second quote. And this one is from the Bible. Do what is right. Be valiant for the truth. Teach it without compromise. No compromises. Pick your principles and stick to them. Never deviate, no compromise, no surrender, no survivors. If you use object-oriented programming, go overboard. Everything has to be in a large tree-like hierarchy. If you use mix-ins, mix everything up. Remember, your code is the very finest cocktail. If you use composition, same applies. And if you like abstractions, put many of them in. If you heard about the saying, do not use global variables, it's actually pretty good, and it won't fly. But you can always use a global namespace, and even better, use singletons, as many as you can. Because you only have one database, really, you only have one backend. It will never change, never in a million years. So, remember, if there is a conflict in team, if you cannot reach decision, never be the guy who compromises. Never be the guy who gives up. You are the variant of truth. So, what else can we do? Well, we can ride a train. Ride the hype train. First, always be on the lookout for a better language. It may be CoffeeScript. It may be ES6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It may be TypeScript. And use them all in production. What about frameworks? Which framework is the very best to ruin your project? Is it this one? Is it this one? This one? This one? No, use them all. Oh, sorry. God damn it. Use them all in production. The very best apps, as we've seen, they include many, many libraries. You really, really need those megabytes to display a div. So, what about more practical aspects of development, like APIs? I can offer you some guidance. So, first, the most important aspect when developing or designing an API is how granular or how much data can you provide in bulk. So it's actually very tricky, because you have to think about it, what the user will need, and provide the exact opposite. So if they are interested in one data set, then provide many. If they're interested in many, ensure that there is only single bits of information that they have to query many times. And another good idea is to allow your APIs to dictate how the application actually works. So the details of the API, implementation, specific things should be scattered around the code, should be hidden well, not to let anyone find them. And another good tip, which works really well, is to hide asynchronicity. Because as we all know, nobody likes async code. Everybody loves sync. So why not provide an API like this? It doesn't matter that it does async in the background. It just works. Except when it doesn't. And this is your goal. So when this inevitably fails, remember, error messages, if there are any, have to be cryptic and unhelpful. So, while we are on the topic of bugs and errors, remember, debugging is twice as hard as writing the code in the first place. So we want to prevent debugging because it's hard. Good idea to prevent debugging is to swallow errors. Errors that you don't see, didn't happen, everything is fine. If you cannot manage this, and there actually are errors appearing, then you should always take care to never find the source of them. Hide your variables, hide them well, obfuscate debugging. Remember, debugging is hard, you don't want to do it. And another good trick is to prevent stack traces. To prevent meaningful stack traces. So if you have a cryptic error message and a stack trace which doesn't help you find the source of it, you're truly, truly screwed. It's a very nice combination. So, okay, we talked a little bit about programming, but what about rock music? This is the 6th step. You are a rock star. You are a rock star programmer. Embrace it. Embrace it and own it. Be proud of your code. Never refactor. Refactoring is for losers. Your code is the best. Never delete code. Remember, your code carries a lot of value. It has been paid for. You have been paid for it. So why delete it? And especially, never ever delete tests. Tests are code in the end. But most important thing is to always try to amaze other programmers. Remember, if you're a rock star, you have to defend this title at all costs at every possible moment. So this code, it looks like it has been minified, but no, it has been handcrafted. Look how awesome it is. Look at this awesomeness. It's the best code. I have the best code. I've written it. I'm proud of it. Okay, but what if this fails as well? Well, remember, you can program in JavaScript using only 6 symbols, actually. You may need some support for it. You may need additional library in your toolchain, but it works. And if you're interested, this is not the whole code. It actually goes for a couple more pages, and it just does an alert. So, as I've said, 6 easy steps. I cannot promise you that you will succeed in ruining your project. No promises. But I can give you a bonus one, and it's for managers. because managers love bonuses. And it's, if he knows CSS, he can code our front end. Bonus points if it's just a graphic designer. So, thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this little bit light-hearted talk, a fast one. And we are hiring. We are hiring currently for Wrocław and for Berlin, both Ruby and JavaScript developers. So we are eagerly awaiting applications.